President-elect Trump is headed to his future home.
Residents in urban centers are out on the streets with protests of their mind.
And a shooting in Seattle, in a city where there were also protests. Good morning. It's Thursday, November 10th, 2016. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Megan Judy.
And I'm Allie Walenta.
And I'm Tim Schmidt. Awfully chilly this morning. You'll wake up with patchy frost in many areas around Boone County and especially over southern Missouri, as we do have frost advisories in effect this morning. Hopefully you're able to cover up some of those more sensitive plants to the atmosphere this morning. Lots of frost advisories in effect south of the Missouri River. The temperature outside, yeah, it's mid-30s out that way. It's a little cool outside under that clear sky. Here's a look at those current temperatures. 40 in Columbia being reported right now. 31 in both Jefferson City and at Lake Ozark. That probably means that most of the other areas across the state, this is all gridded temperatures that you see from Moberly to Boonville to Versailles. Expect that temperature to actually be a little bit closer to probably, let's say 34 to 35 degrees outside. It's a cool morning start. And as you head out the door, well, those temps are going to climb back into the 60s. Actually, a south breeze helps that happen. We'll get back up to 66 this afternoon.
Today, President-elect Donald Trump will visit President Obama at the White House.
The meeting comes after a campaign more than a year in the making that was both close and contentious. President Obama called Trump early yesterday morning to invite him to the White House. The meeting will give Donald Trump a full update on transition plans into office. In a speech President Obama gave yesterday, he said he and President-elect Trump have significant differences. Obama came into office in 2008 with a similar message of change.
We have seen so much, but there's so much more to do.
Now, 8 years later, President-elect Donald Trump says he's the change America needs and promises to undo the Obama legacy and fix America.
Real change begins with immediately repealing and replacing Obamacare.
Even though President Obama and Donald Trump have their differences, Obama's pledged full cooperation of his government to make sure there will be a smooth transition of power. The historic meeting today is just the beginning of that transition and a part of an effort to move this nation forward. The meeting will be held at 11 a.m.
Alzheimer's disease can take a major toll on families, and since there's no cure, families oftentimes don't know where to turn. KOMU 8's Marissa Rubino is live in Moberly to tell us more about an event headlined by a woman touched by meeting Alzheimer's families.
It was through working with grieving families through her funeral home that a woman was inspired to help fight Alzheimer's disease. Tonight she's putting on an open house event where families and caregivers can learn about resources. The event is called Light Up the Sky and will be hosted at Millian Taylor Funeral Home here in Moberly. Millions of families are affected by the disease, and children and spouses often become caregivers.
With Alzheimer's Association, there's so many resources that they can help these people so that they're not on their own, and that's a big help.
Donations to the Alzheimer's Association will be welcome. Lanterns to honor loved ones will be sent off into the sky tonight, and you can purchase those for $10. For more information, visit us on the web at KOMU.com. Reporting live from Moberly, Marissa Rubino, KOMU 8 News.
Police are still searching for suspects.
The suspects from all three robberies fit the same description. Police say the suspects approached the victims on foot and were armed with handguns. None of the victims were injured. All three robberies happened within 30 minutes.
Anti-Trump protesters took to the streets of Kansas City last night. According to our sister station, KSHB, the rally was held on the plaza with hundreds of protesters. The protest organizer, Rudy Costello, says electing Donald Trump sends an awful message. He says it shows the way people really feel toward marginalized groups. Protesters stayed on sidewalks and police kept traffic controlled.
Kansas City was not the only place protesters took the streets. In New York, protesters marched to Trump Tower. What started as hundreds of protesters has grown to thousands, some carrying signs and banners with messages calling Trump a fascist and referencing the KKK. One small group outside Trump Tower burned a U.S. flag in the street. Trump Tower is where President-elect lives.
Meanwhile, in Chicago, demonstrators marched to the Trump International Hotel and Tower along the Chicago River. It was billed as an emergency protest. One banner said, "Unite to fight war, racism, and inequality." That group was also chanting messages against President-elect Trump. Hundreds of demonstrators in Philadelphia were protesting the election results as well. Their chants of enough is enough could be heard from blocks away. Protesters were clear, saying Trump had been elected, but not by them, as they chanted, "Not my president." Police say there were no arrests during this protest.
Oakland was protesting for the second night in a row. Members of the crowd carried signs saying Donald Trump is a rapist and California should secede. Some reports estimate the number of protesters as high as 2,000. Tear gas was also used in the Oakland protests, where it was declared an unlawful assembly by police officers after bottles, rocks, and firecrackers were thrown at officers. The presence outside of the White House was not silent either. Dozens of protesters gathered outside the White House to voice their displeasure with Donald Trump being elected president. Some demonstrators held signs while others sang. The protests remained peaceful, with many holding candles.
5 people were shot in Seattle late last night. Nearby, an anti-Trump protest was happening, but officials say it doesn't appear the shooting was connected to that protest. Firefighters say 2 of the 5 people shot had life-threatening injuries. Police are still searching for the shooter.
6 states across the country legalized some form of marijuana use, but synthetic drugs are causing overdoses in Missouri. What population the drug is affecting most?
I'll tell you how people interested in politics are coming together after Trump's presidential win.
We're taking a live look over Jefferson City.